It's the summer 2022, and the restrictions of the pandemic were finally coming to an end. That summer, everyone was enjoying their first taste of vacation in a really, really long time, myself included. That year, I happened to be visiting some friends that I hadn't seen in about 10 months. And over the course of a few drinks, the conversation went from work to recent releases and new hobbies that people were getting into. One of my friends, the host actually, chimed in and said, "Oh yeah, speaking of that, I won the pre-release tournament for the upcoming Magic the Gathering set. Do you want to watch me crack open these packs?" If you aren't familiar with the thrill of opening loot boxes or vicariously living through someone else while they open loot boxes, count yourselves lucky. Realistically, I didn't know too much about Magic, and I was mostly just curious to see if my friend pulled any expensive cards. I actually tried playing the game once before years ago, but even back then I thought it was way too confusing, and so it just never really clicked for me. Admittedly, I was only half paying attention to the conversation. Most of the card game terms were flying over my head, and I wasn't invested in it all too much. That is, until I saw the box. Sitting in front of me on the table was a cardboard box with an adorable illustration of a smiling fighter and his charming hamster companion. Emblazoned on the front of that box were the words, "Commander Legends, Dungeons & Dragons, Battle for Baldur's Gate." If it was one thing that was going to convince me to pick up Magic the Gathering, it was this set. While I didn't know much about Magic, I definitely knew too much about Dungeons & Dragons, especially Baldur's Gate. To say that I'm thoroughly obsessed would be a bit of an understatement, but that's a story for another time. As my friend went through each pack, I remember seeing cards with names that were all too familiar to me. Cards like Arms of Hadar, Jaheira, Friend of the Forest, Imoen, Mystic Trickster, and Volo's Guide to Monsters, just to name a few. It was in that moment that I knew two things. One, that I would do whatever it took to get my hands on those cards. And second, that this was the beginning of my descent into the world of Magic the Gathering. Little did I know that it would become a full-on obsession. The rest of the day was a blur. I don't really recall what happened, but I remember when I got home, I went to my local game store and I placed a pre-order for the new set. I also picked up a pre-constructed deck so that I could start learning how to play in the meantime. And then it hit me. I had no idea how to play Magic the Gathering, and I had no idea where to start. For anyone looking to pick up a trading card game, Magic has a reputation for being one of the hardest to get into. Being the first and also the oldest TCG, the game has over 30 years of rules, formats, cards, and expansions to draw upon. To put it lightly, the learning curve is less of a curve and more of a 90-degree brick wall. Besides learning by experience, I also read a lot of articles online to teach myself how to play. And on top of that, I've watched countless hours and hours and hours of YouTubers like Game Nights, Tolarian Community College, and Commander at Home just to get a better understanding of how actual people play the game. Link to those channels below. They're a huge inspiration behind the series, and I found them to be a fantastic resource for anyone looking to get into Magic. Over the course of my journey as a new player, the biggest struggle that I had was that there really wasn't just a single place that I could go to that had all the information that I needed. Most of the resources that I used were scattered across, different websites, articles, Reddit threads, anything and everything in between. That's one of the reasons why I actually decided to make Caster Class. In the last year, it really feels like Magic's been going through a renaissance, similar to the D&D resurgence that we saw a couple of years ago. With sets like Bloomburrow, Wilds of Eldraine, and recent crossovers with IPs like Assassin's Creed, Fallout, Lord of the Rings, more and more people who aren't familiar with TCGs are looking to pick up their first deck and start learning how to play. And because of the decades of mechanics that exist within the game, it can feel like information overload to new players, and pretty overwhelming to get into. While Magic can be extremely confusing and outright frustrating at times, it's also a deeply, deeply satisfying game that I've come to love. It rewards creativity, quick thinking, and strategy. It encourages people to come together and support their local game shops. I would really hate for people to be discouraged from getting into the game just because of a learning curve. And that's really at the heart of why I decided to make Caster Class. I want the experience of learning how to play Magic the Gathering to be as seamless and as painless as possible. Whether you're new to the format or to card games in general, Caster Class is meant to be your all-in-one guide to playing Magic the Gathering. Specifically, we're going to be focusing on Commander, as that's the format that I'm most familiar with, but it's also the most popular format out there at the moment for casual players. Over the next couple of months, we'll be going over everything from the game's history, to the different formats, to buying your first deck, to building your first deck, to color pies, and pretty much everything and anything in between. So, with that being said, get your quill and ink ready, because Caster Class is officially in session. Hi everyone, thank you so much for sticking around until the end of this video. Since this is episode 0, I feel like it's only appropriate to introduce myself. My name's Hayasugi Hukumi, and I'm an Owl Spirit VTuber, and I stream over on Twitch 3 nights a week. I've been playing Magic for a little over 2.5 years, and it's quickly become my biggest passion outside of streaming. I'm really looking forward to making more Magic-centered content here and over on my Twitch channel. I also just make a variety of content. I stream everything from Baldur's Gate to Taiko no Tatsujin to essentially whatever catches my eye that week. So, if that sounds like something you're interested in, you can find a link to my Twitch in the pinned comments below. If you have any tips or tricks or topics that you'd like to share or see me cover, please do let me know in the comments as well. I really look forward to hearing what you guys have to say, and I'll see you in the next video.